This is Rabble Rousin, Rich Bergeron.
Take two. It's the 28th attorney Penecale.
And Psychic Tom Padgett with a red-hot crystal ball.
Yes, and in a few minutes we're going to get to Tom's amazing predictions last week. I might as well not even bring up the card on ShareDog because Tom just pretty much described it as it was going to happen last week. Unbelievable shit, Tom. You're a psychic.
Thank you.
Unbelievable. Anyway, we're going to get to that. UFC 209. Big event. But before we started going live here, we were talking about the big boxing event of the week last weekend. Of course, Danny Garcia versus Keith Thurman. And, you talk about styles make fights. There wasn't a whole lot of outright slugging, toe-to-toe action in this one, but, you saw two different strategies executed, two different undefeated fighters going in there, and two different fighters going out. One, with the thrill of a big win, and the other one with some work to do, some adjustments to be made. I talked about last week, told Tony after his brilliant analysis of how it could go either way, that I thought if Garcia fought tall and used a lot of straight punches, he would definitely cruise to a victory. And I did notice that when he was throwing the lead right, he was starching Thurman a lot, but he just did not throw a lot of straight punches. He was throwing way more hooks, and Keith was just a little bit too elusive for him, moved around quite a bit, and got the power shots in that he needed to score points, and just had the better strategy, bottom line. That's what I think.
And going back to the fight, I was a couple of days before the fight, when I'm at the fitness center I go to, there is a gentleman there. He and I talk almost every day. And he did some boxing in the late 80s, early 90s maybe. And I trained at another Philadelphia gym, Harrogate, which is in the Kensington area. Tough area. And he is a boxing aficionado. I mean, he really knows the sport. So I enjoyed talking to him. And so we had a discussion, I think it was last Thursday, what we thought of the fight. And one of the observations he made, and I had to agree with him, was for a guy who goes by the name of Swift, Danny Garcia isn't blazing fast. Danny is more of a consistent type fighter. But if you go back to his fight with Amir Khan from 2012, I mean, Khan was the much faster fighter. He was at almost a 2-to-1 speed. One was going in regular motion, one was going in fast forward. But the problem was Khan was so wide open, Garcia was able to catch him with a good counter. Garcia is a very good counter puncher. So now you go into this fight here, and in the first round, Garcia was doing well, and Thurman caught him late in the round, definitely knocked him off balance. Then after that, it was when Thurman was really pressing the action straight ahead, yeah, he was landing some shots, but he was giving Garcia the opportunity for counters. And I thought Thurman may have outworked him over the first few rounds. Garcia started pulling himself back into the fight. He had a real good body shot around the 4th or 5th round, maybe the 5th or 6th maybe, and he, you could see it really affected Thurman. Thurman at that point started using angles. Now, he, in essence, took Garcia's counter punches away by not going straight to him, by using the angles, because then Garcia wasn't able to set his feet, wasn't able to throw with counters. Garcia wasn't comfortable enough coming forward, and wasn't able to throw with his counter hook. Garcia let his hands go enough. Now, I know in a previous discussion with you guys, do you think that Thurman may have cost himself most by going into a full Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad prevent defense? And no, I don't think so. In the De La Hoya Trinidad fight, De La Hoya, I thought, won easily the first 8 rounds. And at the end of, I think it was the 8th round, Trinidad caught him after the bell was a left hook almost to the throat, like the chest area, the throat area. And after that, De La Hoya, I don't think threw a punch the rest of the fight. He was literally just skirting around the ring and just playing strict prevent. Now, some of the judges had given Trinidad early rounds, which he did not earn, cost De La Hoya the victory. In this fight, you're right. Thurman was ahead, and did he coast more near the end? Yes. But at the same time, he still had his hands moving, and it wasn't like he was strictly running like De La Hoya did. In fact, I think Thurman may have won one or two of the last few rounds, may have won the 12th round on the judges' cards, which sealed the decision. I had the score as the one judge did, 116, 112 for Thurman, 8 rounds before. Garcia wasn't, and I said his one strength going into this fight would be his versatility, was not versatile enough. He was not creative enough. Rich said he didn't throw enough straight punches. I don't think he threw enough punches at all. He definitely didn't throw enough body shots. I mean, the ones he threw, definitely had an effect, but he didn't throw enough. I know the one time, you could clearly see it, he hurt Thurman with a body shot, left hook to the body. There were some times, you might have to just, hunker down a little bit and just drive him. And he didn't do enough to win the fight. The right guy got the decision.
You got it. I think that's what Tom said was going to happen last week, didn't you, Tom?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if we had that tape, but yeah, it was a good fight. I haven't watched boxing a lot lately, but I made it a point to watch that fight. Even though it was on the same time as some other mixed martial arts stuff that I was watching. But all in all, it was a pretty decent card, good stuff. And that was the only fight I watched.
Me was that young Erickson Lubin. He's a good young fighter and southpaw, and he starts that kid with that one overhand left. I mean, boom.
Right. Good shit. Okay. We got a lot to talk about in mixed martial arts as well, and right now we've got to go to the tape. The tape doesn't lie. The tape does not lie, especially when it comes to UFC 209. Here's Tom last week, believe it or not, talking about UFC 209. All right,
Tom, what do you think about this week's UFC fights coming up? Big UFC 209.
Well, my crystal ball here is kind of predicting something unusual. Sort of going blank on this, and I'm getting a feeling here that Khabib may be having a little bit of a weight issue. I just sense he's been, he just hasn't looked super sharp in training, and I don't know who he's using for his nutritionist, but I have a feeling that there's something with the weight that the fight may even be called off. There it is.
Well, you heard it here first. And what about the main event, Tom? What do you think's happening there?
Sometimes there's a cliche about the rematch can never quite match the intensity of the first time. And I kind of get the feeling in the main event that the champ will retain his title in a snooze fest. Right. Because both of them respect each other so much that I think they're both going to be cautious because both of them were hurt last time, both of them were pushed last time, and I think this time around it's going to be very cautious, and the cliche, you have to really take it to the champ. And I get the feeling that he'll survive and keep the belt. No one will be happy.
All right, now what's going to happen to Mark Hunt?
I'm sorry?
And what's going to happen to Mark Hunt, you think?
Mark Hunt has taken so many punches. He's been almost a coconut head and very seldom stopped. But I think that Overeem is going to come out guns blazing. I think that Overeem is upset about his performance the last time around, and I don't think that Alistar's done yet. So I'm looking for a KO. Second round, maybe third. I think he will stop Mark Hunt.
All right. And last but not least, do you think Rashad Evans has a shot?
I think that if Rashad would stick to his wrestling, perhaps. But I don't think he will. I think he's going to keep it on the feet. I think he's going to try to land that big bomb. And I see Daniel Kelly somehow, very, very, very durable fighter. I think if Rashad would fight smart, my money would be on him, but I just don't see it. I think that maybe ever since that John Jones fight, he has not been the same fighter. So I see Kelly just taking out a close but unanimous decision.
All right. Holy crap. Tom ate his Wheaties last week. And obviously got all that stuff right. Nobody could have predicted, though, the performance of the night. And I got to tell you, I don't often get to watch fights with my girlfriend Shelly, but she's not a fan to begin with. So when it does happen, I'm finding it usually tough to get her motivated to watch. But Darren Elkins, unbelievable comeback after the first round, I believe, against Mirsad Bektik. Darren Elkins was bleeding like a stuck pig. Just all kinds of spurts of blood coming out of his forehead and just disgusting stuff. And I'm sitting there yelling at the ref and the TV, "Stop the damn fight! This guy is falling apart."
Yeah, Rich, would you go 10-8 or 10-7 in that round? What do you think?
He's like 10-5. Darren got his ass kicked in that first round, and then he just started turning the tide a little bit in the second, and then the third round, he absolutely dismantled this dude. Got the knockout 3 minutes and 19 seconds into the third round. Do or die. Brutal stuff.
To me, I think it was inspirational, and I got a call from one of the guys I used to train with at the gym, and he was furious. He was furious. He said, "Now we got to sit there and watch this top 20 guy be, one of these scrub horses, and I didn't even call him the trial horse, Yeah. And I'm thinking, can't you enjoy the human interest story here?
Yes.
Okay, talk about. That was almost a movie.
Yes.
In one sense, because we all know that in professional fighting, when you're hurt that bad, when a pro fighter has you in that much trouble, the odds are it ain't no movie. You're not going to be able to come back, and that was one of the most remarkable comebacks. Yeah, is Elkins ever going to be the champ? I don't think so. Is he even a legit top 10 guy? I don't think so. But can't we enjoy a comeback?
Yes, we should be able to.
Not my buddy. I don't know if he got up on the wrong side of the bed, but finally he shut the whole card off. He was so mad.
He bet on the other guy. That's what happened.
No, he's not a betting man. It wasn't that. But the other guy really seemed like he had the great potential to make things happen in that division. Well, that's a wild division.
And it was the second of two back-to-back comebacks. The fight before that, Yuri Alcantara was getting tenderized by Luke Sanders and then just kind of rolled around in a scramble and secured a knee bar submission in the second round, 3 minutes and 13 seconds into that one. So not much difference except the round and the method there on the comeback.
Yeah, and I got the same phone call on that one. Calling Sanders, and then so wow, okay, he just got caught. Sanders will be back. I don't think that was a career-ending fight for him. I think he's doing good. He made a mistake. Well, it happens.
Right. And then just the fillers here. Marcin Tybura beat Luis Henrique Barbosa de Oliveira by TKO in the third round. 3 minutes and 46 seconds into that one. Then we also had third fight of the night, Mark Godbeer beating Daniel Spitz by unanimous decision. Tyson Pedro in the second fight of the night beat Paul Craig by elbows with the TKO in the first round. 4 minutes and 10 seconds in. Then we had the first fight of the night, Albert Morales beating Andre Sukumdath by split decision. That was 3-rounder to lead the night off. And as you mentioned in your astute prediction, Alistair Overeem got the win over Mark Hunt. What you might not have known, even after watching the fight, is Alistair Overeem had some serious food poisoning prior to this fight and after the weigh-in. Serious to the point that Dana White said later that he was puking his guts out before this fight, and still went in there and did not give up, and went in there against Mark Hunt, and just he kind of looked lackluster in the first couple rounds. Looked like he might have lost a step or two, and then the knees came out, and same type of knees that left Brock Lesnar with a nice little permanent scar for the rest of his life. No matter how much makeup he puts on, he's gonna have that shit there from Alistair.
You know, you have to give Overeem credit for being I just see him as the consummate professional. He was so cool after the fight. He said, you know, because there was a little bit of betting.
Oh, we have a clip for that one, Tom, believe it or not. Mark Hunt is not only on the cheating thing, you know, talking about how Alistair had an unfair advantage because he has cheated before. We did mention this last week, but I did not have this clip last week. This clip, he says he was forced to fight Alistair Overeem.
If you head to the bank and wait to get approved for a mortgage, that
advertisement here.
Or you can push that button. Skip the bank. Get approved in minutes. Lift the burden of getting a home loan with Rocket Mortgage.
Rocket Mortgage, gotta get their 2 cents in. Okay, now here's Flow Combat's interview with Mark Hunt.
I know you said you might not come back for another fight. Are you happy to be here this week at all, or is it just feel like you kind of need to?
I'm happy to be actually back to fighting. You know, you already know what's happened with a lot of this thing. Like I said, I've done nothing wrong, so I don't feel like I should be feeling out of this place. I should be feeling like I belong here. It's being ostracized. I feel good. I'm looking forward to fighting Saturday.
How much of a distraction is everything that's been going on being this week, especially, you know, with what the UFC filed earlier this week?
It's not I didn't want to be in this position. You know, I didn't want to be in this position. Gave me no choice. What am I supposed to do? Coming to work and fighting steroid cheaters, you know what I mean? So it's just, how would you feel going to work? Losing to guys, and it is losing, because if you do lose against a guy that's cheating, you lose. You don't get the benefits from it. So this, like I said before, this is supposed to be the best fighters in the world, not the best cheaters in the world, the best guys that can hide it, even with doctors. And the reason why I've done all this is because it's been a pattern of things that's happened, and it's come to a point where I lost against Rock, and I did lose, and he beat me up, and I just couldn't compete. It just wasn't, you know, I lost in all aspects. I lost as in people that are watching the fight on the sport for the first time said, oh man, who's that fighter? I'm not a big fan of his, you know, I lost in that way. That's just one way I lost. So, yeah. Why are we talking about steroids straight away?
That may be important then to make a statement.
It's very important for me this weekend to you know, I mean, even seeing Alistair outside, I mean, it really irritates me on my skin that I have to, you know, share the octagon with guys that have cheated to get in. Don't you feel like that? I feel the same way. I mean, and it took me that loss against Brock Lesnar to realize that. It's not fair. It's not a fair advantage. You know, I'm not going to put up with it. I'm sick of it.
Was there any hesitation taking the fight with Overeem, considering his history?
I was supposed to be here. I was supposed to, you know, I said, if you don't take this fight, you know, it's against your contract. You know, like I said, why should my family suffer and miss out on my hard work? You know, they should deserve to have the better things in life, because I've got beaten up to get here. You know, so why should they miss out? Like I said, I haven't done nothing wrong here, so why am I feeling like I should be like the outsider here? The other guys that cheat, all these guys that cheat are the ones that should be put up on a pedestal. So that guy's a cheat. You shouldn't be here. Why do I feel like that?
Have you been made to feel since you've been here that you're that outsider? I mean, has it been awkward?
I mean, it's not awkward for me because I ain't beat up for it. I don't care.
But UFC staff and everyone, I mean...
No, the UFC being fine to me. Everyone's being fine to me. That's just the feeling that you get. But like I said, I don't care because I get beat.
Alright, that's enough. Mark Hunt on his soapbox bitch fest. No, I mean, he's got a point. He's got a few points. You know, he's just very pissed off that he's got to fight a guy. Not only to, you know, feed his family, basically, is what he's saying, but just to fulfill his contract so that, you know, he can keep fighting. And obviously his heart really wasn't in this one. And then to, he said basically, just seeing this guy outside and coming to the realization that this guy cheated to get here really riled him up. And he could tell. I mean, just by the look on his face, he's just kind of not there. He was there, but not there. And, not that he didn't try in the fight. He tried to win, but he just didn't seem like he had enough heart in it to, really be able to string together something magic there in that fight. And with the lawsuit going against the UFC, it just brings a whole nother level of weirdness to your employer-employee relationship right there. You're suing the very people that you're working for. At the same time, you got to go to work for them at a big event and put on a show, so to speak, and try to improve their bottom line at the same time. And obviously, there's going to be a little tension going on there behind the scenes that's going to affect your performance. So, I agree with him in some respects. In others, at some point you got to kind of stop making excuses if you want to be a fighter and just go out there and bang like you're capable of doing. And I think he really did show not only his age but just his lack of commitment right now to his bosses. Just really showed in that fight. Just did not seem like he was taking it ultra seriously. And he's basically saying in that interview right there that, what do you want me to do? I get beat up for a living. That's not the mentality of a successful fighter. A successful fighter goes in there and says, I beat people up for a living.
Yeah, I would have to think that if he can't change that mindset, it's probably best to find a new vocation.
Yeah. Or at least find some bosses that you want to help out over the long run, because it just doesn't sound like a guy who's enthusiastic about going to work every day.
Well, and Overeem is anxious to fight that up-and-coming big African heavyweight. So he said he would be looking forward to that if it comes up. So we'll see how that goes.
It's you want to want me to tell you? Okay, I hate to say this, but I think Overeem against Hunt was a setup for Overeem. I've often thought that the UFC likes to throw people to the lions every now and then, especially an outspoken guy like Hunt. I think the UFC also knew that they needed to build up the ego of Overeem, and it really took a lot to get Overeem to the point where he was executing perfectly. It took really wearing Hunt down. And I think it was the first and second round, Hunt looked like he had a freaking hole in his leg. Tough as nails guy. It's just, there's just that little bit of heart missing that you need to, at that level and at that age, you need to, go over the top and compete. And to consider that and then look at Overeem's performance overall, I have to say that I think Fabio could beat him. Not the model, but Maldonado, the guy that tenderized Fedor in his last fight. I really think that would be a better fight for him if he could come back to the UFC. Fabio, I'm going to say it. I think Fabio could beat Overeem on a good day. Not to say that Overeem is shot. I mean, he could string it together. That could give him the momentum he needs. But I just saw way too much sloppy fighting in that. He's got these skills that he just does not know how to use early enough, accurate enough. And against somebody that has a little bit more athletic prowess, I think he's going to look foolish. Sorry to say. But maybe not quite Czech Congo type of not using his skills to his ability, like reach and striking ability, but and power. Czech Congo's got no power. Overeem really didn't have good hands in this one, I didn't think, at all. It was all about the knees, and he really took so long to unleash those. So maybe if he's able to get those in sooner, Hunt was landing some decent elbows too. That if he had strung a few together, could have rattled over him. So yeah, I'm gonna be looking for some big improvement if Overeem wants to really try to make a title run or move up the ranks quite a bit. But that one, he might have got a little lucky in that one. I gotta say. But yeah, good knees. I will give him that. Good knees on Hunt. And Hunt was out cold, taking a couple of those straight to the nose area, chin area.
Well, you know, a fighter's power is always the last thing to go.
Right.
And the question about improvement with Overeem, the question there would be, is he at that career where improvements are very hard to come by? Is it at that point of his career?
Right. Well, we shall find out next time around. George St. Pierre also, I hate to, give too much credit to other sites and other, especially other podcasts, we're supposed to be like all about us, but UFC Unfiltered is worth a listen this week. GSP called in to the show and didn't even realize, he knew he had an interview, right? Lost his phone, and sorry about that. Every time you go to listen or look at something, you gotta listen to a fucking ad. Alright, so as I was saying, GSP called into UFC Unfiltered, and he said a lot of things, but he said something that's kind of made me wonder. He said that a weight cut is going to kill somebody, and it's happened before in some other overseas leagues, but it has not happened yet in the UFC. And George St. Pierre said he is dead set against this morning weigh-in that they have now, and he says it's going to cause somebody to get killed. And it's pretty interesting that he makes those remarks right after Khabib and Ferguson gets called off because of weight issues, just like Tom predicted last week. Good job, Tom. I don't know how you knew that, but they don't call you psychic.
Crystal ball, buddy.
Don't call you psychic
Crystal
for
ball.
nothing.
I won with this magical crystal ball.
So, yeah, the weight issue. And Nurmagomedov, might have an excuse. He has not been in the cage and through this for a couple of years now. So, coming back to it and getting back on the horse. Sometimes you don't think about things like the weight cut. You think that's second nature. It's going to just come naturally. But then you get down to the wire and, you're in the hospital. What happened? So, yeah, he got hospitalized. And Tony Ferguson was very gracious for somebody that wants to demolish this guy so he can get a title shot. But, I don't know. I think I'm in the Trump camp. I believe this is a conspiracy against the Russians.
Well, I think Tony Ferguson just seen this as for what it was. They had to build it up, but he wants him healthy so he can beat him and get that title shot. I think Tony deserves the title shot now.
Yes, and Trump making waves with his travel ban and all that stuff like that, overseas travel ban. But the place where they really need terror prevention is on Floyd Mayweather's world tour, I guess. I sent you guys the pictures. He got his van terrorized a little bit there. They burnt the motherfucker right down to the shell. His money team van out there in the UK somewhere. Poor guy. I don't know where he's going to come up with the money to fix that. What do you guys think? Unbelievable. Yeah, it was pretty bad pictures, but if you didn't see that, check that out. Pretty cool stuff if you like Floyd or don't like Floyd. Yeah, it was a crazy picture. And I did read something about him leaving a bunch of people waiting, some fans at a meet and greet. He left them waiting. I don't know if that had anything to do with the burning. But nuts. And of course, we're supposed to do like a whole tribute show to Mr. Lou Duva, 94 years old, died Wednesday at St. Joseph's Hospital in Paterson, New Jersey. and just had his hand in so many different fighters. But when we talked to him back in 2009, and I did say on Facebook last night that I was going to have a ton of clips, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to embed the clips in the description of the show on our website, and we're probably going to do another YouTube show. Last week was our debut on YouTube for the show, so that's how we're going to record it now, and then, you know, let them have all the megabytes worth of storage. It's free. It just takes a little while to set up the video and do the add the audio on my new little laptop here. So we're going to do another YouTube setup, but in the description of the show on our website, fightnewsunlimited.com, we will have the embedded clips of the little highlights that I pulled out of Lou Duva's interview, because it's such a choppy tape, and it's very tough to understand unless you listen to the raw audio. So to play it over the airways as a recording and try to record it again is probably a bad idea. But I will say that I did listen to almost the majority of the interview that we did with Lou, and other than him saying at one point that the referee sent the fighter to another country instead of another corner, he was pretty sharp in that interview. And he corrected himself even with making that mistake. So, great guy, and class act. He had a lot of different champions. I believe it was between 12 and 14 world champions that he helped along. And obviously one of the biggest names in promotion. The whole family got involved. I mean, that really tells you what a guy can do and what a guy is all about when his whole family follows in his footsteps and builds a business around what he is best at. And we had Kathy Duva on the show as well, so we know firsthand what his family can do and what they're all about. But one of the things that he kept coming right back to again and again in the conversation was Rocky Marciano, one of our favorite guys. And the whole reason why we got the interview was the Rocky Marciano Foundation hook up there. But he had nothing but nice things to say about Rocky Marciano. And at one point he said he was going to go to the cemetery in the morning, and again, he was going to ask Rocky Marciano and Joe Louis to come back.
Yeah. We said, what can you do to improve the heavyweights today?
Yeah.
He's like, go resurrect Rocky Marciano and Joe Louis.
Yeah, I'm going to go down to the cemetery, he says. I'm going to ask him to come back. Now you can just go to heaven and talk to him in person. So hopefully he's there.
A couple years ago, when I first got in contact with Dennis Maurice, just because I wanted a T-shirt going to my trip to Boston in 2009, and then we got you met up with them, and you started doing a lot of the work for the foundation. And I remember Dennis, would send me an email or he'd call me. He'd be like, "Hey, Tony, here I got another guy. Would you want to interview?" And I'm not going to turn any interview down. Anybody who wants to talk to us, I'm happy to talk to. Except for that one MMA buffoon we talked to that time. I don't want to talk to him ever again. He's an idiot. But most people are like, yeah, sure, absolutely. And he's like, you want to talk to, it was the one Nicky Sylvester with Rocky's butt. He used to shag my balls for him. Bring him on. And then one time he's like, hey, I think I can get you an interview. Would you guys want to talk to Lou Duva? I was like, yeah. Are you kidding? So we interviewed him. That was probably 2009, maybe 2010.
2009.
It's a very good interview. I tried to listen to the clips you sent today. Like the one Chavez Taylor one, all I could make out was one corner to the other corner, and then they stopped the fight. That's all I could make out. And then I listened to a little bit of the Marciano clip, what I could make out. Yeah, you got a little close. You figured right? The guy was, 88 years old.
Yeah.
His attack. We're talking about, some of the fights. We're talking about Taylor Chavez. We're talking about, different things about Rocky Marciano. We're asking, hey, the Van Holyfield, with the time when the big riot at Madison Square Garden, and the guy was, sharp as attack, the whole thing. And you know what? Hey, losing him, yeah, definitely a blow to the boxing community, because he's one of the old school guys. I would say Lou, when he worked with Benton, George Benton, who was a Philadelphia guy and a very, very good middleweight back in the day. When they worked as a team with the Holyfields and the Mel Taylors and the Pernell Whitakers and all those guys, Mark Breland, they were magic together. And I think what made those two work so well as co-trainers, when you very rarely see that, co-trainers. But you had George Benton was the great strategist. George was a guy that, he could really set up a strategy, could really focus on technique and, countering mistakes and setting up a game plan. Lou was your emotion guy. He was that guy, it's like, you'd want to sometimes get in your face, to kind of wake you up a little bit. And it kind of reminds me, like, when I was at Lock Haven, you had Dr. Ken Cox, our head coach, Doc, and Ken Cooper, who's now the head coach. And Ken Cooper was more of like your strategist guy. Like, now Coop could get in your face sometimes and wake you up, but Coop was more your guy saying, in this round you want to do this. No, in this round you want to do this. And he would set up a game plan. Where Doc was more of the, let's go, and get you on fire. That was like the George Benton and Lou Duva of the time.
Well, the thing about Lou, too, is that he did everything in the sport of boxing. And actually, we didn't get to talk to him about his first forays into the sport, but I'm reading his story in Boxing Junkie here that I posted on Facebook the other night, and it's 19 world champions. I was wrong, sorry, underestimated Lou. But he also was a trainer, of course, promoter. Not only that, he boxed himself, which is very rare to have that kind of triplicate. You've got Freddie Roach was a boxer himself and a trainer. Oscar De La Hoya trained a little bit, but mostly was just a promoter and a fighter. But Duva did it all. And also, his record in boxing wasn't that great. 6-10-1. Wasn't as good as Freddie's, but that was in the 1940s, and he went right to the business side of it. But this is the best part. He was in the U.S. Army after World War II broke out and was dismissed from his first base in Jackson, Mississippi for excessive fist fighting with fellow soldiers, as well as an altercation with two officers when he defended a black woman being harassed on a public bus. And after that, he went to Camp Hood in Texas and got a job as a boxing instructor, which was probably the best thing for him. And he was very close friends with Rocky Marciano, and one of the last people to talk to Rocky before he died in the plane crash in 1969. And one of the most touching things that Lou said that I was able to discern from the interview tape is that, I've read in a lot of other books too, that Rocky was, did a lot of stuff for a lot of people behind the scenes that people didn't realize. And Tony had asked him in the show, what about Joe Louis, that whole thing. And Lou corrected us all for the record and said, that wasn't such a bad thing that Rocky did by knocking Louis out. Louis was very grateful for that opportunity just to fight Rocky at that time. And Rocky did take care of him and, spend a lot of time with him in his retirement years and even before that. So, there was a lot of good stuff in there. But more than that, he summed it up, Lou did, by talking about how Rocky, more than anything else in the world, so thoroughly enjoyed just being able to walk down the street and having everybody that saw him call him champ. That was the big reward for him. Even if, he wasn't carrying the belt around, they just see him and recognize him as the champ, and they call him right out on the street as the champ. Didn't even have to say, hey, Rocky, just champ, those little things in life that make all the difference in the world.
I know Lou has said multiple times, and I believe he said it on our show as well, when he was training Evander Holyfield, for Holyfield's first title win over Buster Douglas in 1990. When the referee counted 10, counted Douglas out, and Holyfield was the new champ, and you know, everybody was rushing into the ring. You know, Lou on the way is up the steps, pointed to the sky and said, you know, this one's for you, Rocky.
Uh-huh.
You know, now, you know, I'm sure Rocky was there to greet him and sharing a big bowl of pasta together and a homemade glass of wine.
Yeah, unbelievable story, Lou.
And the thing I remember,
talk about
one of the training games. I think it was Pernell Whitaker. It was on HBO, and they were talking about the co-trainers, Georgie Benton and Lou Duva, and about their similarities and their differences. And one thing, like I said, I'm 99% sure it was Pernell was saying, like, yeah, you know, you got the two guys, and you got your black guy out of Philadelphia, you know, you got your Italian guy out of Jersey. He goes, Georgie likes to make a lot of soul food. That's Georgie's specialty, soul food. I'll share it with you. Georgie's quick to share. Lou, he likes to make a lot of pasta. Lou ain't sharing the pasta.
Yeah. And there was a lot of boxing last weekend for him to enjoy one last time before his death. I'm sure he was watching the fights. Tough loss, and you know, obviously, heart goes out to the family and everything like that. But when you get to 94 years old, you know you've had a full life, and I'll tell you, it was a joy to see the picture that Tony put on the post that I was posted on Facebook, because we were truly Lou's biggest fans the day of the Rocky Marciano dedication. I think about 5 people said hello to him. Other than actual boxers who knew him, but we were like pretty much the only fans who came down on the track and, you know, sat down with him and talked to him and shook his hand. And it's always so nice to be able to not only interview a guy over the phone like that, but to meet him in person. And I really didn't take opportunities there to get autographs or really talk to too many people like Tony did and get pictures with everybody. But, you know, Tony was wearing his funky Where's Waldo Italian hat. So he had to get everybody's picture with him. It was good. Good stuff. And
I got pictures with Vinny Paz. I got pictures.
Vinny was the best. I mean, not that Lou was bad or anything, but Vinny was cool.
Joe's grandsons who asked if they could cover up my T-shirt of their grandfather and knocked out.
That was fun.
I'll tell you one thing I like to do, and I'm going to Florida in 2 days for my annual spring training trip. And I'm a guy, I like photos. I'm a photo guy. I'm a very tangible type person. So, like an autograph, if like a lot of times I'll go to Eagles training camp or whatever, and I might meet a former player or somebody, and I might have a program with me, and they might sign it, or I might go to an event that there's players give out photos, and half the time, you know, I either give them to a friend of mine who collects that stuff, or I lose it, you know, or I'll sometimes I get the stuff framed, especially if it's, you know, if it's boxing stuff, I usually am more in tune with it. But I'll get the stuff framed and I'll eventually hang it in my. But I like photos because anybody can get an autograph, and unless it's personal, you can't really say, "Hey, I got Brian Dawkins, who might be one of the greatest Eagles ever," and meet Brian Dawkins. But unless you see the photo of me and him together, you probably got that, or you probably we went to one of them stores that sell autographs, and you can't even guarantee that's authentic. But I like the picture of me and Brian Dawkins together. Like, you know, I'm going to be down at Phillies camp this weekend, and I go down there when they have, I get at the door when they first open, and I go down for batting practice. You know, especially the love. And then they'll come over to, and I see them want to get autographs, and hey, that's great. I used to do that. I love getting the. Now, I don't care if they don't sign anything. I'd rather have a photo with them. I'm like, yo, let me do a selfie. And a lot of the guys are really cool. Sometimes the players ask me for a selfie, you know, because of the way I'm.
Yeah.
I've had that. Yeah, photo with you? I'm like, yeah. What the hell? I'm talking about, you know, Bizarro world.
Right. That's awesome.
But yeah, I'm a photo guy, so that's why, like the other year, when I first met Pat, you know, who was my idol growing up, and he was working as a commentator in Philadelphia, and I was going to be there with a bunch of my old college teammates who was fighting on the card, Chuck Masaccio, who we've had on the show. So I remember talking to Russell Peltz's assistant Maureen at the time, and I was like, Maureen, I'm getting like 6 tickets for this show. I said, because on it, I said, are we allowed to bring cameras in? This was before, the explosion of camera phones. And she's like, oh, no, Tony, no cameras allowed. And I said, well, Maureen, what about me? Because I'm going to be covering it with Fight News Unlimited. She goes, Tony, for you, no problem. And that way she got me a press pass so I could have my camera. I didn't care about 2 shits about taking any of the fight photos. He has. That's the truth. So when we were leaving, I was able to go to him and talk to him and got my first photo with him.
Vinny was so cool at the Rocky dedication because literally me, Tony, and Vinny and his girlfriend were the last people to leave the stadium area. Because everybody went to like this VIP private party somewhere across the street near the high school grounds there. And it was like all roped off. There was security there and everything. We couldn't get in. And here's me, Tony, Vinny, and his girlfriend all, hanging around the fence before they locked the stadium. And
my dad.
Talking to your dad was there too.
Dad.
Yeah, your dad was definitely there. And then we were just shooting the breeze, and I remember he was talking about the green belt. He always wanted the green belt.
Yes, always wanted the green belt.
And then he's asking us where the party was. That was funny.
Yeah,
it was so cool. Just shooting this shit with him.
I'll tell you what was funny. One of his last title fights was for the WBC championship, and this was right after my dog Vinny, a few months after we got him. So he was about maybe 6-7 months old at the time. And Vinny Paz was fighting Eric Luca. It was an undefeated Canadian fighter. And they were fighting up in Canada. And Vinny was an underdog. And he ended up losing, a competitive decision. But it was a clear loss. And I remember there was just a pre-fight interview. I'll never forget it. He's like, well, so Vinny, you're going for one more shot at the title? He's like, yeah, I want to go out on top. We'll go for a title win. And I desperately wanted to go for the WBC title. It's the only one that I haven't gotten yet. And it's a green belt, and it'll match my couch.
So
I don't think that.
Yeah. He is so funny.
It'll match my couch.
Yeah,
and they awarded him with the green belt that day.
I was thinking, too, I wish we had that tape of our interview with him, because I'm sure he said some nice things about Lou, too. That we could have got on that.
And you know what? Like in the movie that just came out, Bleed for This, it kind of portrayed a rocky relationship with Vinny Paz and his father and the Duvas. And I know a little bit more of the backstory on that from talking to Vinny, but also knowing a lot of his fights. I don't think they really had a split until the after the car accident. Because going into the fight, like, okay, we all know about the time Roger Mayweather punched him after the fight, and I forget if it was after the Mayweather fight or after the Loretta Garza fight, which was like a couple fights later when Vinny got disqualified for roughhousing. One of those fights, Lou did say, I think his time at the top is finished. And I know that did have a little bit of a wedge between them. But for the fight with Gilbert Delay, Lou was in the hospital. And I remember, because I had the fight on video, I was watching it recently, but for the 12th round, he came out and he looked in the camera and goes, one more round and I'm champ of the world, right, Lou? And he goes, before I beat Haugen and before he won a minor title, like right before that, he goes, before the last round, Lou Duva said to him, like 3 more minutes and you're champ of the world. And so they were still on good terms, at least, with the with the Gilbert Delay fight. But I do also know that Vinny did come out and say that he was a little frustrated, and it's in his book, Fight or Die, that the Duvas always kind of put him as a second fiddle, because Lou was always really busy working with all of his Olympians, his Holyfield, Mark Breland, Pernell Whitaker, Melzer Taylor, Tyrell Biggs. So he had those 6 guys right there. So, he kind of had Vinny always train him with this Korean guy, and who was more of like a fitness guy, but not a boxing guy. Huh. So that really had hindered Vinny for the late 80s until he, started training with Kevin Rooney, who really put him as the top priority.
Yeah, and one of the best things of the interview with Lou, too, was when I got to ask him, with your experience working with so many champs, what was that like? And he basically went right to Holyfield and pretty much called that his proudest moment in the sport of boxing when Holyfield knocked out Buster Douglas right after Douglas, of course, shocked the world and knocked out Mike Tyson. Lou said basically that he was a little psychic that week. He had some Tom vibes that week, and was telling everybody who would listen and who wouldn't listen that Evander was going to knock Buster out, and sure enough, he did. So.
Well, maybe Lou sent some spies. Watch Buster getting on the scales after each training session.
Yeah, that was not Buster's best look.
What was Buster, 246?
Yeah, he blew up.
My God.
And he
blew right up.
229, beat Tyson.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, you know what? They made a comment, and I'll never forget it. They compared him to Calvin Coolidge, our president from back in like the 20s or whatever, and they said, here we're going to compare. I think it was the one time they had an article they were comparing different fighters to past presidents. They said, we're going to compare Buster Douglas to Calvin Coolidge, who a silent cow sat in his office saying about a second term, I choose not to run. And it goes, Buster Douglas sat in the sauna with pizza in hand saying, I choose not to run. Yeah.
Poor guy, Buster. Actually, it's kind of funny. We have chickens here at the house, and one of the roosters is named Buster. He's now the only rooster because the other one just died today. But he was the oldest chicken in the whole bunch. And he was an asshole, so I do not miss him. But that was Brutus. Buster took over, and Brutus had to go. He was an asshole when he was young, right? So he used to kick the other rooster's ass when the other rooster was young. And then Brutus got old, and Buster took over. And Buster never let Brutus forget how much of an asshole he was to him. Brutus was the permanent second fiddle, and it was so bad that only Buster could crow in that cage. If Brutus crowed, he was in trouble. He would get his ass kicked just for opening his mouth. So anyway, sidetrack there. But boxing galore this past weekend. In addition to the Thurman Garcia fight, we also had on that same card, Andrew Fonfara had a beautiful win over Chad Dawson. Our former guest Heather Hardy, 10th round knockout, I believe. Yeah. Heather Hardy also beat Edna Kiss. I believe it's Edna. I'm only looking at the initials here because BoxRec sucks, as we know for certain things. But I'm just looking at the quick results sheet. So Heather Hardy did get the win there in that one. But the big upset, crazy ride off into the sunset win here is Tony Bellew beating David Haye. And it was the other way around as far as who was going to get hospitalized in this one with all the bullshit about Haye's pre-fight commentary and threats. Tony Bellew turned this one around, and David Haye, got to give him credit. He did not use his injury as an excuse, but I believe it was another foot or leg injury he was complaining about, knee injury.
Yeah, he did. I saw it happen.
And so he was definitely fucked up, but did not use it as an excuse. Said he was beat fair and square, and It's gonna be tough for him to pull out a comeback now and try to make a title run again.
Well, first of all, I think Bellew, he's got to go back to cruiserweight. I'm sorry. I forget what he weighed for that fight, but he looked really slow.
Huh.
I don't think he's a natural heavyweight, and I think he took the fight because it was a good payday, against another, British rival. So that was going to, have a good, turnout in Great Britain. But Bellew did not look sharp at that weight.
Right.
Haye was doing well early, and then you could see, at one point, he did something. I don't know if they clinched or if they, it was something where I think they butted heads at the same time. I don't know if they had, a funny collision or something. They butted heads, and you can see, Haye stepped back, and he started, buckling, and we're like, oh, what happened here? And they're like, he blew out his ACL. I'm like, if he blew out his ACL, he's not going to be standing. We're like, maybe he tore his Achilles once again. He wouldn't be standing.
Yeah.
But, he fought gallantly, but he couldn't move. And I remember saying to my dad, he turned to me and he goes, if you were in the corner right now, what do you do? I said, fight's over. I said, I stopped the fight immediately. Because the guy couldn't move, so and I was saying, if I was Bellew in that situation, what I do is, you can see the guy can't move. So obviously, any movement you do, he can't do anything to counter that. So Haye was reduced to swinging wild shots, where he was, but he really couldn't step into them. So I was saying, what you would do there is go towards him, bait him to throw a wild shot, and step back, because he can't step into it. And every time he missed a wild shot, he was hurting himself.
Huh.
So, yeah. And then he's easy to counter.
Right.
That would have been my strategy right at the spot. Bait him in, make him punch, and step right out of the way. Make him put weight on that bad leg. Also, like I said, the fight should have been stopped. They didn't, and then Bellew knocked him out of the ring in the 11th round.
Huh.
But the fact that he let Haye survive about a good 5 rounds on that leg is, Bellew should not be in heavyweight. I'll leave it at that.
Well, supposedly, Bellew is comfortable retiring right now. Does not need to box again, but his girlfriend wants him to stick with it. So it's usually the other way around, right? That's what I read.
Wow.
So we might see Tony stick around, but good stuff. Another guy who's not sticking around, Paulie Malignaggi, is retiring for the 18th time.
Again?
Sam
I heard he got knocked out on the card.
Sam
I think he got stopped, and then he worked the main event as a commentator.
Nice. Sam Eggington took out Paulie, and it's end of the road finally. I know you said it before, but and I've said before, time and time again, white guys just cannot up jab like the African American boxers out there who have perfected it. Not to say that it's just impossible, just like the movie, white guys can't jump, sometimes there's exceptions, but Paulie was able to, use it up and down in his career, sometimes to the best, sometimes to the worst of his fortunes, but good career for a tough guy, always willing to take a fight and to do that and then just go right to the commentary table too. It takes a special person, but obviously he's got some fast talking and a lot of good knowledge, so you'd like to make sure that he doesn't get pugilistic dementia and he can use that knowledge as late as possible in his life. So looking forward to seeing him on the other side of the microphone for a while now. But let's go to the upcoming schedule. We got some decent fights coming up. First of all, I'd like to mention the Praying Mantis is in action this weekend. Victor Artunian still out there. This time he's actually facing somebody it looks like he'll be able to beat, though. This is the co-main event. The main event is a 3-1 fighter against an 0-1 fighter, so this ought to be the main event. But For some reason they're showing it as the co-main event in Western Australia on Friday. I don't know if that means with the time difference they're fighting now or tomorrow. I don't know. Victor Chinin, he's 42-9-1, fighting Menot Compute, who is 13-16. So that should be no problem for good old Vic. The WBC Latino welterweight title on the line in Bolivia tomorrow as well. Eddie Salvatierra, 15-3-2, fighting Armando Alvarez, who's 12-0. And let's see, we got fights in Chile, not too much on that card. Here's one over in Japan on Friday. Tomoki Kameda at featherweight, 32-2, fighting Pipat Chaiporn, who is 42-9-1. Co-main event is for the vacant Japanese bantamweight title. Ryo Akeho, 29-2-2. Akeho. How's that for a last name, huh? For a fighter. Yushi Tanaka is his opponent, 19-1-3. Again, that's the vacant Japanese bantamweight title on the line there. And third fight worth mentioning here is Hisashi Amagasa, 31-6-2, fighting Kenshiro Usui, who is 27-4. Good stuff there over in Japan. And of course, I believe we're going to go to Saturday. Oh, there's one from South Africa, of all places. The vacant IBF Intercontinental welterweight title on the line. Not spectacular records, but Tisiko Malovedzi, it's a tough one. 11-7-3 is his record, fighting Dario Sochi, 10-2 with one draw. That's in South Africa there for the little IBF deal. We got the vacant WBC Youth Intercontinental Lightweight title on the line tomorrow night. This is a De La Hoya card out in Los Angeles, California. This is the main event. Christian Gonzalez, 16-0 against Romero Duno, who is 12-1. And it's just pretty much journeyman. Prospects on the rest of the card. But, Estrella TV is going to be promoting that one. Publicizing it. And down in Philly at the 2300 Arena, there is a card tomorrow night. Anthony Bergen in the main event, lightweight, 10-2, fighting Avery Sparrow, which I don't think is a very good name for boxing. Fighting that Sparrow guy. Yeah. 5-1 is Sparrow. It's the co-main event. Fred Jenkins Jr. should have a walk in the park here. He's 10-3, fighting Rogue Zapata. How's that for a name? Rogue. 2-1-3. ROGUE, just like Rogue Agent. That's the first I've ever seen that name in my life. Also, a guy with a familiar name to boxing fans, Cassius Chaney, 8-0 at heavyweight, fighting Tommy Washington Jr., 6-9-1. Yeah, some crazy names on this card. But yeah, those are the best ones there. Now we're moving into Saturday. Okay. Still on Friday. And Showtime, Showbox, obviously, Friday nights. They have a card from Detroit, Michigan. Detroit always needs some good boxing entertainment, period. Not a lot going on in Detroit anymore. It's a bad area for a lot of people, but they're still hanging in there. You got to give them credit. Bantamweight main event: Antonio Nieves, 17-0-2, fighting Nikolai Potapov, who is 16-0-1. So, couple draws for one guy, one draw for Potapov, and no losses. That's the big thing. This is for the WBO, NABO bantamweight title. So somebody's always going to go unless it's a tie again. We got nice co-main event too. 11s are wild here. We got 11 wins for both guys at super bantamweight. James Smith comes in with just the 11 fights, no defeats, no draws, all wins. Joshua Greer Jr. He is 11-1-1, so ones are wild for him, and that should be a great super bantamweight matchup there. And then we've got Wesley Tucker at welterweight, 13-0, fighting Edward Williams, 12-1-1. And here's kind of a weird, crazy record. Gilbert Venegas, he is 15-26-5, fighting Bakhtiar Ayubov, who is 11-0. Crazy record there. Alright, let's see what else. We're getting into Saturday now, of course. Definitely have some big fights on Saturday. Another fight in Australia worth mentioning on Saturday. Super lightweight Michael Katsidis, 31-7, fighting Josh King, who is 20-4. And Katsidis has not been in action in a while, I want to say. It's been a long time for him. China has a big event at the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Center. Super flyweights in the main event. Rex Tissot, 20-0, fighting Hirofumi Mukai, who is 13-4-3. This one's for the WBO International Super Flyweight title and the WBO Asia Pacific Super Flyweight title. And if that's not enough, it's also for the WBC Asian Boxing Council Super Flyweight title. Co-main event for the WBO Oriental Bantamweight title. Kenny Demicillo, 12-3-2, fighting Mark Anthony Geraldo, who is 33-7-3. And for a couple non-Oriental guys, one of them's going to end up with the Oriental title. That's funny. Nothing too crazy on the rest of that card. Here's one from the Czech Republic, super welterweights. Stefan Horvath, 17-5, fighting Arthur Herman, who's 17-2 for the vacant WBO European super welterweight title. And we got Lucy Sedlakova, 8-0-1, fighting Doris Kohler, who's 12-15-2 for the WBO European featherweight title. And it does not say female, but those two sound like female names. I don't know what's going on with that one. But somebody named their son Doris, if that's not a typo. Lucy, I don't know. That might be a European thing, but Doris, yeah, that's tough for me to believe. That's not a woman fight. I don't know. Blame it on BoxRec, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess the big one is over in Germany this week, even though I never heard of this guy, Jack Kulke, at super welterweight. But he's in the big one, WBA World Super Welterweight title there. He's fighting Demetrius Andrade, who is 23-0. Kulke comes in at 22-1. And then it's a super night because we've got two super middleweight bouts to complement this one on the card. Nikki Adler fighting for the vacant Women's International Boxing Federation World Super Middleweight title and the vacant Global Boxing Union Female World Super Middleweight title. Nikki Adler comes in at 15-0, fighting Mary Rancière, who is 7-7-3. And then we got a couple of guys with 10 wins at super middleweight, fighting for the IBF Youth Middleweight title, super middleweight title. Leon Bauer comes in undefeated, 10-0. So-so. That's also not a good name for a boxer. He's just so-so. So-so Abuladze. He is 10-1-1. Yeah, you know that so-so, he's a good boxer. Yeah, he's just so-so. So that's Germany. Here's another one in Germany here. Cruiserweight Dennis Roner, 25-1, fighting Said Mbelwa, who's 37-20-5. That's a crazy one. And main event there is actually Kem Kurnazakan, who is 9-0, fighting Tornike Gikashvili, who is 14-5-1. And with all these overseas cards, I hope people aren't trying to correct me on pronunciation here, because I'm out to lunch on that tonight. I'm not even trying. Anyway. Let's see. Accra, Ghana. There's some decent fights here. All three of these are decent matchups here, especially for Ghana, you know. A lot of boxing history there. But lightweights, Richard Comey, 24-2, fighting Hidi Silmani, who is 26-2. That's for the vacant WBC International Silver Lightweight title. Bantamweights, Duke Micah, 19-0, fighting Jonathan Aguilar, who is 17-4. That's for the vacant WBC International Bantamweight title. And then we got Frederick Lawson, 24-1, fighting Sakima Mullings, who is 19-2. That's for the vacant WBC International Silver Welterweight title. Over in Toscana, Italy. Here you go, Tony. Right in your neck of the woods. Yeah. Super welterweights, Orlando Fiordigiglio. There's a good Italian name. 26-1, fighting Howard Kospolite, who is 15-5-2. That's for the IBF Intercontinental Super Welterweight title. That's about it for that one. See if we got anything else on Saturday on page 3 of the schedule. And then we'll go to the UFC big event this weekend. We got a preview. Tom's got to do some more psychic predictions.
Yes, sir.
Mexico. Of course, we can't go a week without mentioning a couple fights in Mexico. On Saturday, bantamweights, Luis Neri, 22-0, fighting Jesus fight of the week, Jesus Martinez. Mexico, it's not hard to find Jesus in Mexico, believe it or not. Jesus Martinez is 23-1. It's not for a title this week, sorry, but the co-main event is Juan Francisco Estrada comes in at 34-2 at super flyweight, fighting Anwar Salas, who is 20-3. That's for the vacant WBC Silver Super Flyweight title. Those are the only two fights on that card, according to this. So that's it's a pretty decent card. Little card there in Mexico. Mexico. And Mexicans are going to pay for it. If they want to watch it anyway. Alright. I'm not seeing a whole lot of other stuff right now. We're not into Sunday yet. Okay. Here we go. Big one on Saturday. Turning Stone Resort and Casino in Verona, New York. This is going to be on HBO. Middleweights, David Lemieux versus Curtis Stevens. David comes in at 36-3. Curtis comes in at 29-5 there. And Yuriorkis Gamboa back in action on this card. He is at lightweight. 25-1 is his record, coming in against Rene Alvarado, who's 24-7. And then we got somebody's always got to go fight for a title. Yves Ulysses Jr., 12-0, fighting Zachary Ochoa, who's 16-0, for the vacant NABF Junior Super Lightweight title. And Diego De La Hoya also on this card. Not surprisingly, Oscar is promoting it, with Camille Estefan of Eye of the Tiger Management and Kathy Duva of Main Events. But Diego comes in at 16-0, fighting Robert Pucheta, who is 10-9-1. We also got the Zoltan on this one. Zoltan Serra, 28-11, fighting Demetrius Ballard, who's 15-0. Just that, Todd Unthanked May comes in at 10-0, fighting Quentin Rankin, who's 12-3-1. Damon Allen comes in at 10-0-1, fighting Adam Matei, who's 24-10. And again,
it's a good prospect there. I had the opportunity to see Damon Allen and Todd Unthanked May fight a couple times live. Damon Allen actually managed by a friend of mine, and he was on the last cover of the most recent title boxing catalog that just came out.
Nice. Alright, getting into Sunday with a couple of these, but there are some other ones worth mentioning here. There's another Philadelphia card at the old Sugar House Casino.
Yep.
And Philadelphia, Tyrone Brunson, 23-6-2 in the main event at middleweight, fighting Brandon Quarles, 18-3-1. And I'm pretty sure we got stuff on our blog about this one. So look at Fight News Unlimited if you want more particulars on that one. Then there's a Louisiana card in Charenton, Louisiana on Saturday. Main event there is pretty interesting. Carlos Cardenas, 22-12-1. Fighting Mason Menard, who is 32-2, and nothing too crazy on that card either to round it up. But there was one in Atlantic City as well at the Claridge Hotel and Casino. Main event there, Anthony Young, 15-2, fighting Samuel Amawako, who is 21-13-0. And some interesting boxing names tonight. Amawako, if you pronounce it wrong, that doesn't sound good. Let's see. That's about it. We got some Sunday stuff in the Philippines, but nothing spectacular. No big world titles there. So, UFC Fight Night coming up on March 11th here from Brazil. That's the next one we'll talk about. Main event there is going to be Vitor Belfort. Speaking of cheaters, right, Tom? 25-13, fighting Kelvin Gastelum. Speaking of weight issues, right, Tom? 13-2 is Kelvin Gastelum's record, and he's, 0-4 against the scale. Had some tough outings there trying to beat the scale. And had to pull out of at least a couple fights, I believe. If not, there was one recently where I believe he had to pay a portion of his purse to the other guy. Kelvin Gastelum comes in 13-2. Vitor, it's do or die for him, I would think, at this point. He kind of hinted at retirement, his last go in the cage, but he hung on, kept going. Kelvin's a good opponent for him, I think, to really show whether he's got anything left, and whether Kelvin can make a move here at a title. So this is a very main event.
I just think this is Kelvin's time. We can go back 20 years since Vitor made his debut. It's back in '97, believe it or not. 1997 when Vitor made his debut. Wow. So he's had a good career, but I think that this is the swan song. And
we never know. We never know what kind of Vitor might show up. He might roll Kelvin up in a ball and beat the crap out of him, and then come after the fight, we find out his testosterone to testosterone level is through the roof. But I don't know. We might. It's Brazil too, so anything can happen with the commission there. We know. But it's a good fight. I'm looking forward to it. The co-main event is pretty decent too. We got Edson Barboza, 18-4, fighting Benil Dariush, who's 14-2. And another Brazilian, Mauricio Hua, 24-10, fighting Gian Vellante, who's 15-7. And we've got Francisco Trinaldo, 21-4, fighting Kevin Lee, who's 14-2. And obviously there's a Brazilian theme. We got the Brazilian Cowboy, Alex Oliveira, 15-4-1, fighting Tim Means, who's 26-7-1. And Josh Berkman back on UFC card here. He's 28-14 in the 8th slot of the night here, fighting Miguel Prazeres, who is 21-2. And we got the Betch. The Betch is back. She is 10-2. Betch Correa fighting Marion Renault, who is 7-3. Paulo Henrique Costa, 8-0, fighting Gareth McClellan, who's 13-5. Fifth fight of the night is Jussier da Silva, 19-4, fighting Ray Borg, who's 10-2. And round out first four fights of the night. Rony Mariano Bazera, 14-6, fighting Jeremy Kennedy, who's 9-0. Third fight, Godofredo Castro, 13-4, fighting Kyle Bochniak, who is 7-1. Sergio Moraes, 11-2-1 in the second fight of the night against Max Griffin, who's 13-3. And then first fight of the night, Joe Soto, 17-5, fighting Ronnie Yaya, who is 23-8. They asked Ronnie if he wanted to fight. He said, "Yeah." Yeah, I want to fight. So, good stuff. And I don't believe we have any Bellator fights till next week. And also, we got a World Series of Fighting card coming up next week. And I don't have a lot of... don't believe I have a heck of a lot of news for this week. But I just check my news notes. See if I haven't forgotten anything. Oh, that's right. I forgot about the link that I sent you guys. Now that we talked about Floyd Mayweather's van being torched, but we did not talk about the Mayweather versus McGregor latest back and forth. I think I did briefly mention last week that Dana White said that the next time McGregor will fight is in the cage against the winner of Ferguson versus Nurmagomedov. And I kind of did a preview of my own on the Nurmagomedov versus Ferguson fight, thinking that the best case scenario would be a tie for McGregor versus Mayweather, because then, you know, there'd be more time to negotiate that fight, because those guys would have to fight again for the title shot. But now, you know, the fight being called off, that's just as good for the negotiations for Floyd. But I tell you, it's starting to swing to a position where it seems Floyd is the more desperate one, which is not what we're used to seeing from Floyd. But he's getting a little bit heated, and here's a clip. You know, some language in this.
But
too.
if Conor McGregor really wants the fight to happen, stop blowing smoke up everybody. Sign a paper. Sign a paper. You said you a boss. Just sign a paper, and let's make it happen.
Yeah. So you said you're the boss, McGregor, but we haven't heard a lot from McGregor personally about this thing lately. And I think it's because of his real boss, this guy, talking to TMZ here.
Where we at with the whole Floyd-Conor thing?
I don't know where we're at. We're nowhere. We're nowhere with it.
Because Floyd told Freddie Roach, you know, go start training Conor and get ready. It's going to happen. So
yeah, we're nowhere. And Conor wouldn't train with anybody. Conor's got his own team and his own crew. And, you know, I expect Conor's next fight to be in the UFC in mixed martial arts, and the winner of Khabib and Ferguson.
Because Conor seems like he's chasing that boxing fight next. You know?
Well, you know, the thing's going to be millions of dollars. You know, the guy can make anywhere from 30 to 60 million bucks. Khabib and Ferguson hate each other.
That's what I was talking to. Yeah, that trash talk's been really heating up.
Yeah, those guys hate each other. That fight's going to be good. I mean, listen, both guys
He said he's going to rip his face off. Khabib said that, right?
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good fight. Two nasty guys, you know, number one and number two in the world. It doesn't get any better than that.
A lot of people don't think Conor can hang with Khabib.
That Conor could... Listen, people have been doubting Conor since the day he stepped onto the scene.
They're still doubting.
Khabib is awesome. Khabib is tough. But people have been doubting him since day one.
If you like what you just saw on your...
All right, so more money, more problems, right? Poor Floyd. That's his freaking van burnt down. Conor won't sign the damn paper, and you know,
You know, like I mentioned to you earlier, Rich, I just wonder what the legal situation is.
Well, I mean, we know for a fact that the UFC has very restrictive contracts. They do not allow normally, other than grappling. There's been some grappling events that some UFC fighters have been able to participate in, but they do not allow any kind of cross promotion or cross competition. Whereas Bellator has a much looser contract. They do allow fighters to, like King Mo will do a Rousin fighting event every now and then.
Yeah.
So.
Well, okay. So then, why are we having this discussion if this thing's not going to happen?
Because Dana White's an asshole, basically. I mean, and he's not a boxing promoter. He's not in the boxing business, and so the last thing he wants to do is start bringing boxing money to the UFC and start giving guys ideas in the UFC that they can make more money boxing. So unless Floyd is going to come down to his level and accept this paltry $25 million offer, this fight is not happening if Dana White can stop it. And he's the Dr. Evil in this equation. I'm sorry.
Well, it seems like the contract is an ironclad guarantee that this fight will never, ever, ever, ever happen.
I think it will happen.
How can McGregor get out of it?
I think it will happen, but it's just a matter of finding a way to pay for it. And the UFC does not want to put up all the money, and at the same time, they don't want to take all the risk. So they're going to do whatever they can to kind of throw a wrench in it. And you notice Conor is basically saying that he's out till May because his wife's going to have a baby. His girlfriend, wife, I don't know what it is by now. But, he's expecting a child. Let's put it that way. And he's going to be out till May. Bottom line. What month does Floyd love to fight in? May.
Yeah, exactly. Cinco de Mayo.
Yep. So, and then there's just all kinds of fighters coming out of the woodwork from mixed martial arts all of a sudden to say that they want to box. And a lot of fighters connected to Bellator who could do it without rubbing elbows the wrong way with the brass. And then you've got Anderson Silva we talked about last week, wants to fight Roy Jones Jr. This fight can happen. It can be a spectacle. It can be healthy for both sports, but it's going to be bad for the UFC either way, because unless Conor wins, which I don't think can happen, but I mean that tells you why Floyd wants this fight so bad, because it's a cakewalk for him. I mean that's all he sees.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is an easy fight, come out of retirement, make $100 million or more, and be able to put this whole argument to bed over who's better at striking, MMA fighters or boxers. So I think it can happen. It could happen. It may happen, but yeah.
How do you see it? What is the path?
There has to be the UFC puts in. The UFC has to be the promoter.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Never happen. Never going to happen.
Mayweather can't get in there and say it's all his event. He can't have it on Showtime. It's got to be on a pay-per-view setup that's attached to the UFC, and then we have to have the UFC owners that just paid $4.something billion for this whole thing come in there and put $100 million for each guy in there, or at least $50 million for Conor and $100 million for Floyd, and make it happen. That's the only way it's gonna happen.
I just don't see it. And if Floyd would come down to their terms, what would that say about Floyd's finances? That's interesting. I mean, because you brought up a good point tonight, Rich, that I hadn't really thought of. That it's Floyd all of a sudden that seems to be the desperate one now. I mean, not desperate, but really anxious.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're close to, if you're a multi-billionaire, why do you need the money?
Right, exactly.
Unless he just wants to be 50-0.
Maybe
but
that too.
50
yeah.
would come with the biggest asterisk beside it that you could imagine. And those of us that are fight fanatics know that.
Which is why it also makes sense to keep delaying this, keep the hype up, keep people talking about it until Conor might actually be ready to put on a performance, if not compete, closer.
Well, I don't know what Conor's UFC contract is, how many fights he has left.
Right.
But
well, we'll see. Depends, I guess. It's good.
Because I would have to think the longer, if Conor could defend his belt a few more times and then his contract's up, by that time Floyd may be in his mid-40s.
Yeah. But even then, I mean, Floyd has said too, that is the only fight he will come out of retirement for. Says another thing about this whole thing.
Then maybe Conor can go another 10 years. Floyd will be 50. Maybe. I mean, we all know that so far, Father Time is undefeated.
Yep.
And if he could catch Floyd at 50, Conor would be 36. Well, I don't know now. Maybe this might be even then. I think Conor would have an uphill battle.
Right.
But I think right now this is a fiasco.
But you know,
I know. We'll find out.
It's making headlines, so we got to talk about it every fucking week. Unfortunately, you know, it's kind of an interesting dynamic. You know, what makes it more interesting to me is the fact that all these MMA fighters are suddenly getting back into this whole argument. That we had a whole series on this one time. Remember, back before. MMA
this is when I was a guest, not even the co-host.
Yeah, before MMA was even really established as a sport, we were debating, you know, who was better, boxing or MMA, and, you know, who was on a better track. And, you know, there was the whole thing where the UFC was trying to brand itself as, you know, MMA being the fastest growing sport in the world and being on a meteoric rise. But this is bad timing for the UFC because we've talked about it before, but I think the Fertittas really bailed out on the UFC at the right time because they knew that it was all going to blow up in their face. And situations like this is what makes it start to crumble away. Where a lot of these fighters are starting to look over at boxing and starting to see these guys making these $1 million paydays for being even on free TV now here with Al Heyman doing all these fast moving and working with all these different promotions and networks. So you're starting to see these guys come into a main event. Both guys are making $1 million base pays or more, multi-million-dollar pay for one fight. And UFC guys, even at the highest level of their sport, a lot of them are not ever going to make $1 million per fight, ever. So you know, you see so many boxing guys just being in one main event and making that kind of money, and all these MMA guys putting themselves in a lot greater risk of things like concussions, broken bones, and they're not getting anywhere comparable pay. And I believe it's starting to piss them off to the point where they're not only saying they're going to go to boxing for a challenge, but they're going for a paycheck and to take full advantage of what they've been training in too. You know, because I mean, I don't think Bo Jackson ever did it for the money either. You know, the different sports. Or who's the other one there?
Deion Sanders.
Exactly. Dion, playing for the Atlanta Braves and the Atlanta Falcons at the same time. Just unbelievable. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, and we'll see if this trend continues. But this week it's MVP. There's an MVP of MMA who wants to go to boxing. Michael Venom Page of Bellator is talking about going over to boxing.
Well, I mean, I think these guys are going to find out, though, that they're this is a whole nother level of swinging your fist.
Right.
So now, Andre Ward was hosting a show with Nate Diaz and Gilbert, you know, his training partner, and you know, they talked about a lot, and he said Diaz really had some pretty good hands, but I mean, you know, Diaz has his license, but we'll see how he does if he decides to go that road. But wouldn't he have the same problem that Conor does? Because Diaz is still signed to the UFC, right?
Yes. But obviously he has a tempestuous relationship with them. So.
Well, as far as the UFC is concerned, so what? You signed a contract. I mean, that's where it's just going to be so difficult for Conor to get this fight, assuming he wants it.
Yes, sir. All right, so I believe that's all we have for notes and news and recaps and previews. I'm a poet and didn't know it.
Yeah.
Big shout out, of course, to the Lou Duva, the family of Lou Duva, and
absolutely
dedicating this broadcast to him. And we'll sign off, and with a promise that you will see the links to all those little clips and episodes of the show, or the episode of the show that we were referencing. We're going to put a few little clips from that.
You know what we should do? It's a little bit too late now. If you maybe want to add this into the broadcast when you upload it. But what I should do is buy a ring bell, and anytime we lose somebody, do a 10 count on our show.
Yep, we could do that.
So maybe if you can find an audio of a 10 count, you can add it to the end, as a dedication to the one and only. 94 years young, man was a legend. Lou Duva, may he rest in peace.
Yes, sir. I'm sure he is.
Well, gentlemen, in about 36 hours from now, not even about 33 hours from now, I'll be departing the Philadelphia area for the few days, so I gotta think about packing.
All right, buddy. Well, you have fun.
All right.
And till next week, guys, we are outie 5,000.
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot for stopping by and listening in. This is going to be our second YouTube one. We're going to try to get some more hits and clicks and all that funky stuff. And
all right.
A lot to talk about next week, some more events and some wrap-ups, all that stuff. And hopefully Tom's just as psychic next week as he was last week, right?
We shall see. All right, guys. Enjoy the fights.
All right.
Hasta la vista, gentlemen.
Adios.